Hello everyone, Johnny Hurricane here from GamersHeroes.com, and why don't you sit back, relax, and let me tell you about Phoenix Point. Phoenix Point centers around several factions fighting for control and survival as an extraterrestrial virus, known as the Pandora virus, spreads through a mysterious mist, mutating animals and humans alike into deadly abominations with claw, pincers, mandibles, mind control, and everything in between. You front an elite squadron in the Phoenix Project. Once a trusted global organization that was shunned into secrecy, it now consists of a few cells of the bravest and brightest humanity has to offer. Faced with the extinction of the human race, you're tasked with uniting the factions, defeating the alien threat, and learning the fate of the rest of the Phoenix Project. Sounds simple enough, right? Each of the different factions in Phoenix Point tackle the impending threat from a different perspective. The Disciples of Anu are a cult-like faction that believe that developing a human-alien hybrid is the best way for humanity to survive. The New Jericho faction are your typical military response to a large-scale threat, nuke it from orbit type of faction, and the Sindarion are a technically advanced group of radicals. The factions are interwoven into the narrative and the core gameplay mechanics, making them vital aspects of the Phoenix Point experience. Events occur throughout the game that will test your loyalties to each faction and provide questions that test your morals. Players will be able to traverse this minefield following a different route each time. For my initial playthrough, I decided to work alongside New Jericho and Sindarion, but objectives and events arose that saw the two enter an all-out war. What began as a mutually beneficial relationship that had a sharing aid and technologies descended into a war on multiple fronts, and that's ignoring the constant threat of the mist. Phoenix Point operates over two basic systems. The Geoscape challenges players to explore, discover new havens, encounter new tribes, research new tech, and manage vital resources, while the challenging combat tests your strategic prowess to its limits. The Geoscape is dynamically generated each game. Although it's still Earth, the events, locations, and challenges you face will change. In the early hours of the game, you'll be using your single aircraft to transport troops to find resources, defend allies from invasion, and continue to uncover the secrets of the alien invasion. As time passes and the Pandorians become more aggressive, the mist travels further inland and resources become more scarce. It gets real tough, real fast. Towards the end of the game, I was managing 4 aircraft and nearly 20 different soldiers, each of which has their own character progression, equipment, and customization options. For players unfamiliar with the XCOM franchise, Phoenix Point's Geoscapes could definitely become overwhelming. It's not uncommon to be tracking down 6 or 7 different objectives at the same time, all while reacting and responding to an ever-changing and evolving threat. While this sometimes creates an exciting feeling of urgency, more often it's frustrating as you struggle to reach a distant objective without constant interruptions, made worse by the difficulty of finding new Phoenix bases that act as a healing and recovering center for your troops. Thankfully, there's always the option to pause the entire thing, catch your breath, and dive back in. While it appears chaotic on the surface, Phoenix Point's Geoscape is a test of strategic thinking, balancing resources, prioritizing important research, developing new weapons and technology to combat the alien mutation. It's hard work, but incredibly satisfying. Spending a couple of hours with your most decorated squad, customizing their names and appearances, and outfitting them in the latest technology you just stole from another faction provides a rewarding time. Just don't become too attached. The strategic combat of Phoenix Point is every bit as brutal and unforgiving as XCOM. A single mistake can result in the death of your favorite soldier or an entire team. It really is that tough at times. In addition, there's a fantastic variety of enemy units. These include traditional grunts that duck behind cover and take shots at your snipers, enemies that can mind control your troops and turn them against you, giant beasts that look straight out of a Lovecraftian novel, pooping alien facehuggers that dominate your best units. Discovering new enemies is every bit as exciting as it is difficult. The backbone of XCOM remains in Phoenix Point. The combat focuses around taking cover and carefully spending points to complete various actions. Movement, shooting, using special abilities are all carefully tied to an economic combat that is constantly growing and evolving throughout. Initially, you'll rely on good old-fashioned military tactics, taking cover, moving your heavy units up, snipers in the back, things like that. But as you advance, the enemies advance as well, and then you have to change your tactics up. Soldiers can be customized with a number of classes, each proficient in certain weapons and abilities. As they level up, new abilities can be earned, offering entirely new tactics to deploy on the battlefield. Phoenix Point constantly feeds you something new and exciting to try. A new vehicle, a new alien mutation to give to a soldier, new tech stolen or traded with another faction. It's a rewarding venture from start to finish. I thoroughly enjoyed my inevitable failure of a campaign on my first run through, but subsequent attempts at driving back the mist did start to reveal a few holes. Once I began to understand how technology advanced and weapons work, I discovered I was able to obtain the best weapons and abilities very early in the game, removing that rewarding progression that made the game so hard to put down. Certain aspects of taking cover and shooting that I failed, originally blaming on lack of experience, actually became clear that it was the game's problem. Bullets were hitting targets but not doing damage, ricocheting off terrain that was clearly being overshot. It doesn't happen often, but in a game where every single mistake is absolutely devastating, it's definitely a concern. Phoenix Point is a collection of fantastic new ideas installed on the solid foundations of the XCOM franchise. While it lacks the content to offer the replay value that the more recent XCOM games have, it's still a great game that will test your strategic mettle to its limits. Alright, that'll do it for me. If you liked what you saw, got what you needed, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys in the next video. Later, Gators.